listening to
A to the K.
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 A to the K WrestleTalk podcast.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.
And so, Anthony, for the final segment of the week, we have...
Knock it into full gear.
Oh, yeah. We are going to be discussing AEW's Full Gear PPV. And the card for that pay-per-view was pretty impressive, to be honest, as was the pay-per-view as a whole. So on the buy-in, we got to see the NWA Women's title on the line with the new champ, Serena Deeb, taking on Allysin Kay. We got to see... We will come on to what happened after that shortly. We got to see the World Title Eliminator Tournament final with Kenny Omega taking on Hangman Page in the opening match, which I was super surprised about, with Kenny Omega picking up the win in a fantastic showcase. We had John Silver taking on Orange Cassidy in another fantastic showing, and Orange Cassidy picked up the win. We had the TNT title on the line with Cody Rhodes. Oh yeah, he's got his name back. Taking on Darby Allin for the TNT title. We had, and Darby Allin picked up the win on new champion. Anthony's not impressed. We had the women's title on the line with Hikaru Shida taking on Nyla Rose, with Hikaru Shida retaining. The tag titles were on the line with FTR taking on the Young Bucks, with new champions, the Young Bucks, picking up the win. We had an Elite Deletion match, which is the culmination of the feud between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. And what a fucking mad fucking thing that was, with Matt Hardy picking up the win. We had Chris Jericho taking on MJF. If MJF won, he would join the Inner Circle. And he did win. So MJF is now part of the Inner Circle.
I think we need to be clear on something now.
Go on.
I think there may be more shenanigans with this. Because they were very clear on social media that he has been invited to join the Inner Circle.
Okay.
So I think we may see some more shenanigans. Maybe he's going to make a point of not joining, even though he could.
Tune in to Dynamite this week, and we'll find out more. And then the main event of the evening saw Jon Moxley defending the AEW Championship against Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match. And Kingston quit. So Moxley is still the champ. So that was the rundown of the card. In terms of the highlights, Anthony, I've pretty much only got one tiny minor slight shite. So as you can probably tell, I fucking love this show. So let's go into it.
I do have another little shite. Is it different to yours? Hang on. Yeah, I do have another little shite, and we will discuss it. It's not a major. It's not the worst thing in the world. Just something I'm not particularly happy with, but we'll discuss that as we go on.
Okay. Well, if it is one of my highlights, then feel free to call me out and argue.
No, we'll probably discuss it on your highlights, but
okay.
Again, nothing major. We'll get to that.
How dare you? Anyway, so the buy-in? Is it the buy-in? Yeah,
the buy-in. Well, I don't know if it's called. Is it called the buy-in when you do these ones?
I think so. Still. But the pre-show saw the NWA Women's Championship on the line, and we saw Serena Deeb versus Allysin Kay. And the match itself was pretty solid, to be fair. I thought it was a really strong contender for the pre-show. And
I think I do want to say, I think this was a better showing for Deeb than Dynamite last week.
Yeah, definitely.
She looked a lot better in the ring this time.
Yeah, agreed. I think when we saw her post-win, we were just like, oh shit, like why have they put the belt on her? But yeah, I think this match was pretty solid. All the way through. Really good showing. And then Serena won, and after the match, who do we see? Thunder Rosa. So yeah.
Yes.
We probably both popped pretty hard for this because we were just like, fuck yeah.
You got damn right.
And do you know what? I think the way they did it was really good as well. It wasn't like fisticuffs or anything like that. It was Thunder coming out, getting in the ring and saying, do you know what? Fine, you may beat me, but I've got a rematch. I'm going to take that rematch, and you better be ready, kind of thing. And it was just like a show of respect, but at the same time, it made you go, oh shit, I want to see this. I want to see it on fucking AEW.
You know something? I think she's known this whole fucking time. When she's finished with AEW and she goes back home to Texas, and we've interviewed her, and we're like, "Oh, what's the future hold?" And then she dropped the title, and everyone was like, "Where's she gonna go now?" I think she's known since the last time she was in AEW that she was going to do this. Not necessarily a Full Gear, but I think they knew this was where this was going. And popped a lot for that. But they knew how well that was received on AEW. There's no way they weren't getting it back. Now I look at it, but when you truly believed it, it's like, because it's unbelievable circumstances anyway. Like she's a champion for another show.
Yeah.
That you go, okay, that happened. It was great. It's probably not going to happen again. And then they suckered us in. It was probably not going to happen again. And then boom, rocks up, and we're all like marked out now. Marked out.
Well, I think by all accounts, she's under contract to NWA for at least the next year. So
yeah, I believe it's well into 2021, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't think she could go anywhere anyway. But that being said, I think the way they've handled it and being like, well, okay, she lost the belt because by all accounts, again, she's going to be going and doing some MMA for a while. So I don't know whether this is a way to kind of say, like, I'm claiming the next shot, but that could be post MMA, or whether it's going to be something she does before she goes on to that next step. But yeah, either way, I thought it was amazing to see her. Obviously, we love her. We think she's fantastic. And, I think I was just like, holy shit. But like normally, like I won't even talk about a pre-show or a buy-in or whatever, because typically it's like, it's okay, but not.
Yeah.
Look
at her. She's got us talking about the buy-in.
But there she is. That is what she does. So yeah, great buy-in to the show. And then the first match we got to see on the show was surprisingly Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. So I was very shocked that was the opener.
A solid way of doing it, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think to me it reminded me a little bit of like a WrestleMania where they always put on a fantastic opening to the show, which is if you go back to like Jericho interviews and stuff, he was pissed off that him and Kevin Owens went on second because the opening show is like, okay, get everyone in the mood, and then
that's like kicking everything off in it.
Exactly, and then like the second slot is just kind of like the filler.
And to be honest, usually a bit of a come down from what you've just seen.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they've like adopted that approach. I mean, we see it every week on Dynamite. They always have an absolute banger to open up the show. But yeah, I just didn't expect this to be the one that opened up the show. But it was so good, man. It was so good. And I think, you know what? A lot of people, I've seen mixed reviews, like I really have, and don't get me wrong, it's been mostly favourable. But at the same time, a lot of people are just like, well, yeah, I don't know, I didn't really see it. It just like they didn't build it up enough, and they didn't, put on a good enough match. And I'm just like, what were you watching? Nah. Because, like, I get it from a build standpoint. I've been critical as anyone and said that they could have built this a lot more to get a lot more interest. Like, this could have sold the pay-per-view. Like, absolutely could have. But it was like a back burner like thing that, this is also happening on the card. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought the match itself was amazing. I thought them two got amazing chemistry. The way that it was like Kenny coming out super confident, and Omega being a bit more reserved, and like the back and forth, and Omega nearly getting the win, Page nearly getting the win a few times, and then like Omega being like, "Oh shit, like I need to really step my game up and stuff." I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
No, I totally agree with you. To be honest, I don't think it'd be unfair for anyone to say that these two didn't put on a great match together. They've clearly got a lot of in-ring chemistry as well.
Yeah, defo. I think, by all accounts, this is only the second time they faced off. I think they faced off once before in New Japan, which was a while ago, 2006 or 2016. It was definitely a while ago. Something with a 6 in it, I think. But yeah, so, fair play. If they haven't fought each other a lot, they just put on a fantastic showing in this. And, it left me with so many more questions and so many more like, oh, okay, like where's he going to go from here? Like obviously Omega's won, so he's got the next title shot, and spoilers, he's going to go up against John Moxley again, and obviously we saw them in a more hardcore setting. So I think the build to this is probably going to be more like, well, okay, you beat me in a hardcore showing, but what can you do in like a wrestling match? And like I think that's going to be like the build to this, and that's going to be like that's going to be okay, can John Moxley out wrestle the best wrestler in the world? So I'm super like stoked for that build. But at the same time, like for Page, because this was the closest he's got to that championship match since super early on, and he's already said like,
Yeah, in all
he
fairness.
didn't think he was going to get back there again, and now he's back there and he's lost. Like he was a sad hangman. So what are we going to see now over the next few weeks and months? So yeah, all in all, super hyped for it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
And the next one we got Orange Cassidy taking on John Silver. And do you know what? I'll hold my hands up. I thought this was just going to be like a shite filler match where it was like, oh, well, because originally this was meant to be on the pre-show. And I think typically, as AEW does, they got a lot of resistance and were like, well, this should be on the main show. And so they did. And they were like, okay, we'll put it on the main show. Cool. And so that happened. And do you know what? It deserved to be. I thought it was awesome. John Silver, man, he proper shone through in this. Like, Cassidy has had almost like a baptism of fire, hasn't he? He's been, this gimmick character who everyone shits over and goes, well, do you know what? He is not really a wrestler. He's got this weird little shtick that he does with like the hands in the pocket, and that's all he is to him. And over the past few weeks and months, he's become like this, enigma that all the fans have got behind and see something in. And so he's managed to make something for himself where people super get behind him. And then I was like, oh, well, he's going to be Cassidy against, this guy from Dark Order. I'm not really into it, but it was fucking awesome, man. It was so good. John Silver was incredible.
Oh yeah, I think if you it's finding the capacity to do it, Carl. But if you watch a bit of Being the Elite, like it doesn't show you Silver in the ring, but the Dark Order, like as a whole, like there's a lot of good talent there in terms of comedic value as well. And Silver definitely shines on the backstage stuff too. So yeah, credit to him.
Yeah.
There was a particular segment the other week. They're going to some sort of backstage bar area they have, and Dean Malenko was there, and they were like, "Well, do we go in?" He's like, "No, that he's got like 1,001 holds, and there's like only 10 of us." It just tickled the fuck out of me. Just stupid stuff like that, and that's the kind of shenanigans you get with Dark Order on Being the Elite. And it's just a daft YouTube show, but it's definitely worth checking out. But it helps highlight some of these people that you don't necessarily, because I don't think we see them enough on Dynamite. I totally understand why you weren't like hyped for this match, but they were both really good, like you say.
Yeah. I think as well, John Silver, like I never really understood how strong he was. There was a point in the match he did a one-arm fucking gorilla press slam on Cassidy. I was just like, holy shit, like this guy, like who is this guy? But yeah, I thought it was really, really good. There was a particular spot in the match where I just thought it was brilliant. It's something which I've never seen before. And I love being surprised by something. It's like Orange Cassidy loves to stand there, put his hand in his pockets, which he did early on in the match. And John Silver was like, well, do you know what? Fuck you, I'm going to pull your pockets out. And it's like, well, then what do you do? And it was just like, oh, shit. Like, why has no one thought to do that before? And it was just like, I love just being like surprised by something.
God, he's got
like, yeah, it was like, oh, shit. He's like, he's took his pockets out. You can't do that anymore. So, yeah. As mad as that sounds to actually say, yeah, I thought it was really good. To be honest, I thought it was one of the better matches of the night. So I was super impressed.
And to be honest, when you've had such a heavier match before it, like emotion-wise, it was actually really well placed as well.
Yeah, no, agreed. I'm interested, Anthony, to get your thoughts on this next match because you pulled a couple of faces, shall we say?
This is my only shite.
Okay. So the match, for anyone who wants to know, is Cody taking on Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. And for me, I thought it was a fucking banger. I thought it was solid. I thought Cody played the role of the bigger, stronger guy really well. Darby Allin played the role of, this younger, kind of, thinner, smaller guy who was going up against this veteran who was bigger, stronger. And I don't know, I quite liked, I'm a big fan of matches which are very like for like, and you get to see the contest of like two big bastards or two small, high flying technical guys, whatever. But this was like that kind of contrast comparison match, which landed really well for me. So I thought, yeah, I was really into it, but I'm keen to get your thoughts.
No, do you know what? I have to give it credit where credit's due that it was a good match. Like, I can't deny that they were both good in the ring and they have pretty good chemistry together. What I don't like was Cody's approach to the match, Cody's approach to the loss, the shenanigans after the fact. there's just a few elements where I'm like, I don't know, just have the fucking match. Like, I don't like what respect has Darby earned, and you might argue with me on this, and you might have a reason why you think this, but what respect has Darby earned that Cody quite willingly gives over the championship with no frustration at all when Brody Lee, who clearly outmatched him and outclassed him within fucking minutes, he couldn't have it. He broke down. He dyed his hair. He come back and had a rematch. There's no feeling of that at all. This he even fucking knelt down and gave him the belt, and it was easy as fuck. And I just don't get why Cody's not bothered about this loss like he was Brody Lee. It just seems, I don't know. It just feels a bit really pandering to Darby Allin. I don't mind Darby Allin. I've nothing against him, but I just don't get why they give this so much sort of like, oh, it's like watching the fucking Lion King, man.
I think this draws parallels to something which you are also quite critical against, which is like the Rey Mysterio win. And I think ultimately it comes down to the slighter, smaller fella being able to outmatch the bigger, stronger guy. And so Cody got decimated by Brody Lee, but he should have done, because Brody Lee's a fucking monster. He's bigger, he's wider, he's stronger than Cody. So Cody's like, oh, okay, yeah, he was the better man, but whatever. Whereas Darby is someone, by all accounts on paper, shouldn't be beating Cody, and he did. And it was, to be honest, the finish, which I'm keen to get your thoughts on, because this is drawn a few, I don't know, a bit of a divide in the wrestling community is around the finish, which...
Well, can I just say one thing before we get to the finish, because you mentioned Brody? And I will agree, like, I struggle with the whole size thing when it comes to, like, watching Rey Mysterio go up against a monster and go, like, okay, that makes sense, right? It doesn't process very well with me. But I honestly think this is why the belt ended up back with Cody, and this is what bugs me. Because you could not have had Darby, Brody, and it have been realistic. That would have been even more ridiculous. So what they did was they dropped it back to Cody so that Darby could get the belt, because there's no way we're going to see Darby Allin go up against Brody Lee realistically for the TNT title. And that's kind of what bugs me.
I think that's fair, to be honest, but I think at the same time it opens up a lot more, I don't know, opportunities, I guess, because there's going to be so many other guys now who are going, well, I can beat fucking Darby Allin. He's like 5 foot whatever.
Well, I think that's what bugs me though, is like, why did they ever give it to Brody Lee? Like, he was always going to be a difficult man to beat, so they had to get Cody to do the job. Like,
yeah,
if you want to put the TNT belt at that level where people are going to be challenging for it and it's not going to be absolute behemoths, then don't put it on Brody Lee in the first place. And this isn't a gripe about this particular match. I just think, I don't know, it was more the sort of weird respect thing that Brody never got, and I'm kind of pissed off for Brody. Brody never got that respect.
I think it's a very fair point that you're making. I believe from interviews from Tony Khan and stuff, he said that Cody was the one who personally signed Darby, and straight away he wanted to put him over. And Tony was like, well, no, you need to wait. And so I think this was a way to have Cody put Darby over, like he's always wanted to do, in a weird way. But yeah, I feel like Brody
just felt like a bit more of an over the top over.
Yeah,
I don't mind putting someone over. You give him the win, that's putting him over. You don't have to literally like hold the belt up like a chalice. It's kind of pissing me off.
Yeah, I feel like Brody was the casualty in this, because, as you said, he got the belt and didn't really keep hold of it that long, because Cody came back and claimed it and then lost it to Darby. And it was kind of like, oh, okay. But yeah, I don't know. I think at the same time, the match itself I thought was fine. I thought it was really good. And I think it opens a lot more interesting dynamics for where it goes next as a title, because obviously Cody was the right choice to win that belt. He can't win the main belt, and he was the face of TNT at the time because he was also on this game show, whatever. And I was like, well, okay, Brody decimated him. He came back, the big return. That was good. And now it's gone to Darby, which I still think is good, but it's like, where does it go next? And I think that's where the testing time's going to be now.
I have my theory, and I could be wrong, because of what happened shenanigans-wise. I'm hoping that we move into Darby Starks. I think that could work.
Yeah, so I think we didn't really get onto it, did we? But after the match, shenanigans ensued. I think we spoke about it in Dynamite. Is Taz said the team FTW is going to come out and be seen at the pay-per-view, and they did come out after this match, and Cage and Ricky Starks came out chatting some shit, as did Taz, and then all of a sudden they were battering Cody and Darby, and they went to almost the extreme of breaking Darby Allin's arm in a car door. But then Walter Hobbs? Is that his name? Will Hobbs. Who's Walter Hobbs?
Are you just thinking of Walter in NXT UK?
No, Walter Hobbs from some TV show. But yeah, Will Hobbs comes out and basically breaks it up. So yeah, I don't know. I get your point around the shenanigans and stuff, and but I'm just glad it didn't happen during the match, because normally it'd be like, Brandy's there and Arn's there and Arn gets involved and the Dark Order comes out for some reason.
Do you know what? Yeah, I'll retract that.
I'm just happy that the match happened.
Yeah, no, I'll actually take that point back, because you make a really good point there that normally with especially with Cody matches, it happens in the match.
Yeah.
So yeah, fair play. Like the match was done and won before they started with all this shit. So yeah, I'll give you that.
The next one, Anthony, that I'm keen to also get your thoughts on is the tag title match, because a lot of people have said this was the match of the year.
What?
A lot of people have said this is definitely the tag match of the year. For me, it was a good match, but I slightly expected a bit better.
I might give it tag match of the year, and that's not even a compliment to them. It's just because there aren't many. I think there could have been more. To me, like, this isn't done and it can't be done, and this is where I sit on it now, is that, like, if I was to think this is the only time we're going to see them face off for a while, then I'm disappointed. If I think it's like a mechanism to get somewhere whilst the Young Bucks are at full strength, then cool, I'll happily wait for the rematch. But it was missing something. Wasn't a bad match, but it was missing something.
Yeah.
Ooh, you really didn't like it? Ooh.
No, I did. I don't know. I think even despite the lack of build and everything that happened, these are by all accounts the best two tag teams in the world. And so I wanted to see the best tag match in the world, and I felt it went on a bit too long. There was a moment in the middle of the match where they just started spamming finishes of other wrestlers. And on the one hand, okay, that's kind of cool. They're doing 3D, they're doing fucking, I don't know, the Twist of Fate and Swanton Bomb, whatever the fuck else they did. They even like alluded to like DIY and stuff from like NXT. And it was just like, okay. But like, why? Because the whole build of this match was these two are the best tag teams in the world. Why are you using moves from lesser tag teams to try and win the match? It didn't make any sense. I take your
point, yeah. Yeah, I never really had an issue with it, but like I can see where you're coming from. Is like we're kind of then robbed of seeing those lot face each other.
Yeah, and I think obviously they tried the best with obviously the different injuries. So obviously Matt Jackson was injured, and they tried to do something as well with, I don't know who's who in FTR. I'm not going to lie, but one of them was selling the hand injury. I think it was Dax. No, Cash. I think it was Cash. Was selling like some weird hand injury as well. So like that whole thing happened. So there was that dynamic. But that being said, I thought the finish was really, really good. So I liked the concept of the guys who are just fists, not flips, resorting to flips to try and beat the Young Bucks. And it was because they tried everything. They couldn't beat them. And so they tried to beat them with their own game. And that ended up being the cause of their demise, which as a story was great, I thought. So
to be fair, I think that when they've been sort of spamming that sort of catchphrase for a while is a really, really good way to go.
Yeah, well, to see them do a springboard 450 and stuff, you know what I mean? It's just like, what? Like, these guys don't do this. So, yeah.
It turns out they can.
Well, exactly. So, I don't know. I think it made a lot of sense because they built their whole tag career on, like, not being the guys who do flippy shit. And it was like, they almost had to try and resort to that to get one over on the Young Bucks. And that ended up being the thing that fucked them over. So, I think from a story standpoint, it was awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like there was a lot of stuff in the match, which maybe you could blame it on the injuries. I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to see them guys just fucking go at it. And what we saw was it was a bit more timid, a lot of finish spams from like other teams. And I don't know, it just didn't live up as the best tag team versus the best tag team, if that makes sense. But the
Yeah.
finish was good.
I do hope we get to revisit this though.
Yeah, same. Which surely we have to, but I
You've
don't know
got
what's going on with the
imagine.
Bucks at the
I
minute.
was a bit surprised at the finish being the Bucks going over because of the injuries we were well aware of.
See, I was and I wasn't, because I think as soon as they put that stipulation on it, I was like, well, they can't do the same thing they did with Cody. There's
Yeah,
no way
I
they're
must
not
admit,
going to
because
win.
I did say last week that there's no way they're going to do that with Cody and them.
Yeah,
Like, and we were saying last week that it's just basically signposting who's going to win. But
yeah.
then I read about the injury, and I was like, they're going to try and not. I don't know. Maybe they could have wrote it somehow, but I was convinced they were going to try and sort of put the belt or keep the belts on FTR, because surely I think it was Matt, wasn't it? One of them with the ACL issue. Surely he's going to have to be out for a while. Do they just not defend the titles for a while? I don't know.
Yeah, like honestly, I don't know. Maybe he's gonna just try and fight through for a couple of months until they drop it to someone else. But
How frustrating is it?
yeah,
It's like he's there with like partially torn MCL and a torn ACL, just like walk it off, and then you got Chris Statlander there, like what the fuck, man.
yeah, I think this has killed my career for 2 years. But yeah, I don't know. The next one was the Elite Deletion match, which I think, Anthony, you'll agree, was fucking batshit crazy, to be honest. And it was
Batshit
everything
crazy.
we've come to know and love or tolerate from a Matt Hardy external match. So obviously there's been a few of these, the whole Lake of Reincarnation, the whole
Yeah.
Gardener thing. Like, it's been going for a while now, and I think I've seen one or two. I don't think you've seen that many, but I think maybe you've watched, like, caught up on YouTube or stuff like since. But they are an acquired taste, I will say. That being said, I thought this one was quite funny. I think the stuff that's happened between Matt and Sammy, like the fact that he turned up in a fucking golf cart, and then like the monster truck nearly took him out, and then like, I don't know. I thought it was quite funny. All in all, it was
Yeah.
definitely a welcome distraction after such a hardcore, intense wrestling tag team match. To just have
Again,
something that was a bit silly. I think
a
again
really well
placement.
placed position on the
Yeah,
card.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, for me, I'm never big on these things. I'll be honest with you. It's not often the cinematics sell me, and I say often because I was sold on the John Cena, Bray Wyatt stuff, and even the Undertaker AJ stuff. And some of the match stuff, like the Stadium Stampede, I don't suppose if you class it as a cinematic per se. There was still stuff going on, but like even some of them have been really fun. But I'm never big on it. Like I never got Matt. I've mentioned it a few times. I never really got the whole broken thing.
Yeah.
And on paper, I wasn't going to like this. But then, the more I think about it, like they've had such bad luck with this feud, them two, that I'm at a point now that I'm like, if it takes a cinematic for them to close this feud off on a high note, do it. Like, I'm fine with that. Do you know what I mean? And like you say, there was plenty of good smatterings of comedy there, like that bit you mentioned when we were talking about the news with the hurricane, referencing the fact that he'd been there for 2 years. Just I don't know. There was a bunch of fun little nods that obviously we love spotting those things, like you say with the golf cart and that as well. But I actually don't even give it a negative. Am I gonna sort of rave over it? No, but it was good. It was good and enjoyable. And again, like you said, it was good, especially for after the match we just had.
Yeah, I think I don't know. There was like things in there where they were shooting fireworks at each other. They went into the forest, and I don't know. I think Hurricane kind of stole the show for me, because he showed up as the Hurricane. He was like, "I've been here for 2 years. What took you so long?" And that kind of thing happened. Then Sammy Guevara threw him in the fucking lake, and then the next minute he shows up as Gregory Helms or Shane Helms, the interviewer, and then he fucking throws him into the lake. Then later on, he's there, and like that's all happening. So, like, I don't know. I thought, Gangrel as well. I think we've been speaking about him recently, because on Whiskey and Wrestling, I was talking about when he came over to the UK, and I was sat in the same locker room with him. So for me, it was like an additional pop, because I'm just like, oh shit, it's Gangrel. Like every
It's
time I
funny,
see Gangrel.
because I've been trying to find some contact details for Gangrel. Because I wanted to speak to him, because obviously you had that little history there. And I know he probably won't remember it because he was doing a lot back then. But I really want to speak to him on the show. And now I feel like it feels like it's in response to this, and it's not. I was trying
I
anyway.
know.
What are the odds he was going to turn up?
I know, like literally like a week or two ago, we were chatting about him out of nowhere. We haven't seen him in years, and then all of a sudden he turns up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, everyone listens to us. That's what it is. Like, oh yeah,
Clearly.
Gangrel, we should call him. So you're welcome, David. You are welcome for the booking. Yeah, I don't know. I think to your point, like, however they needed to do this, like, blow off to the feud, be it cinematic, whatever. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was very fitting of the feud these two have had together, and the fact that it ended with Sammy pretty much dying, being put in a fucking bin and carting off to the fucking cemetery by the looks of it, was just perfect.
But it's like that, like so many people wanted it to just be done. They didn't want Matt to come back after the concussion thing and go against Sammy again. And I thought that was a little bit unfair. Like,
yeah,
it was unfortunate, and I wanted them to have that one good match. And all right, Sammy's good in the ring, and so is Matt. And it would have been nice to see a match, but this equally, as long as they got to close it off, I'm happy. So it worked for me.
Yeah, same. And then the second to last highlight, Anthony. So MJF Jericho, I thought it was awesome, to be honest, and I loved the finish. So again, another fantastic finish. People are being like, oh, it's very Eddie Guerrero, blah blah blah, but for me, it was so MJF, like, based on the character that we know and we love already, is the fact that he said he would do anything to win the match, and he called on Wardlow to give him the diamond ring. Jericho had said, well, I want my baseball bat, and Jericho was about to fucking twat him with the baseball bat, and then MJF's like, okay, I'll just pretend like you did the Eddie Guerrero-ish thing where he looked like he had already been hit, but it wasn't like, okay, he's disqualified, whatever, like, and that's what made it different, because every Eddie match where that's happened, it's like, okay, well, he's won by DQ, and he's like there going, yeah, I caught you out. But, Aubrey Edwards was like, well, what the fuck's happened here? Have you done this? Whatever. And then he has the fucking audacity to go and then just cover him and pin him with like a surprise roll-up. And it was like, he got a clean win. And did he cheat to do it? Sure. But it wasn't like a DQ thing or whatever. So, yeah. I don't know. I thought it was a very MJF thing.
Yeah. No, I'll agree. I especially... not related to the finish, but like you say, I think that's what made that a little bit different. I love the little nod to Jericho in his entrance as well. Thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, the little light up jacket. Yeah. I think as well, like, I just don't think he gets the credit he deserves. MJF is a fantastic wrestler. He is so good in that ring. It's unbelievable, really, considering how long he's been in the business and how good he is. I think people look at him as like, oh, he's a great promo or he's a great heel, whatever. Like, it's in ring work stuff. In-ring stuff. In-ring work? Yeah, not in-ring work stuff, not in-ring stuff.
Work stuff.
In-ring work is phenomenal. And I just don't think he gets the credit he deserves for that. Definitely not enough. So, yeah, for me, the match itself was fine. I don't want to say it because I don't want to shit on Jericho because I love him, but at the same time, I don't think he's been as Jericho-esque the past few months as he had been.
I agree. I don't know what's going on with him at the minute, whether he's just got too much on schedule-wise, but he's definitely not been himself.
Yeah, I don't really know what it is. He just seems a bit slow on the pace, I guess, or a bit behind the pace on stuff where normally he's like dictating the pace, do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a weird one. But I don't think it took away from the match or anything, but it was just
no
another little kind of...
I think because you used to what Jericho is, you notice it, don't you? That's the only thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously MJF is now into the Inner Circle, as is Wardlow apparently, although to the point you made before, he's been invited to join the Inner Circle. So whether or not that happens, we will see on Dynamite. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that Jericho was like, okay, MJF and Wardlow have been invited to join the Inner Circle. So it was like, what's going to happen? But yeah, I thought it was good. I think, it opens up a lot of opportunities now for MJF if that does go that way. If not, then, what is next? But
I don't know whether it's hopeful thinking and whether you'll agree that it'd be a good way to go, but I kind of hope he does join the Inner Circle and then proceeds to sort of try and almost take it over.
Yeah, I think there's been a few people like alluding to that, kind of similar to like Nation of Domination kind of thing with The Rock, where it was like from Sable, but then like The Rock came in and infiltrated it all.
And they done that segment with the gifts and all that.
Yeah, so
good times.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that will be the case, but yeah, I'm definitely excited anyway to see what comes next.
Mm.
And the main event again, I thought was really really good. Now I don't know, Anthony. This could just be me being a statistical sadist motherfucker, but it wasn't as violent as I hoped, and I don't know. Is that just me being a sick fuck or what? But
I'll be trying to be honest with you here.
mm.
Maybe. Because it still had plenty, like, it needed to be something because they're both, like, known for being hardcore. It needed to be a hard-hitting match because you need to try and get this person to quit. And I think maybe because they set the stakes at I quit, like, maybe that's why you'd expected more violence-wise. I think there was plenty of good stuff there. I think it was plenty hard-hitting enough. And they were both brutal in this match. But then you look at them as the characters and the way they've been built up. Could you realistically have seen either of them saying I quit? I know ultimately we did, but I think in some senses it may be you wanting blood, like
See,
classic
for
gladiator
me,
days, or it might just be the fact that they've built them to a point where it's like without that extreme, that more extreme, that next level where it's like, fucking hell, that's brutal. It couldn't realistically have been an I quit. I don't know.
I don't think it was as brutal as Moxley Omega. And for someone like
I'm trying to recall Moxley Omega enough and I do take your point because that was brutal.
like that was brutal. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
And like
yeah,
for
that was
someone like
savage.
Eddie Kingston didn't even get cut. He didn't even bleed. Like you could clearly see a big camera botch where they slipped him a blood pill to put in his mouth and make it like he was bleeding internally. Like we
Right.
saw that, like with the cameras was to see. You know, Moxley I think bladed a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I just felt like, and I'm not one of those guys who's like, oh, it needs blood to feel intense or real. But there was spots in there where Moxley had barbed wire on his head and was smashing him, and he still wasn't bleeding. And it's like, come on, like
Yeah, I'll take your point on that, and I suppose that might have been some of the problem for you is that like he clearly weren't willing to go to the levels that Omega did.
yeah. Which for someone like Eddie Kingston, who's meant to be the fucking hardcore king, like backyard wrestling guy, I don't know. Like, I don't want to shit on Kingston. I don't want to shit on Moxley, but at the same time, I just thought I expected with these two and the backgrounds they've got and the fact it was an I Quit match. It's almost like, do you remember when like it was Brock Lesnar and fucking Dean Ambrose or John Moxley, and it was like he's brought a chainsaw out and it's like this is going to be hardcore, and fuck all happened. It was just like a suplex match. I got similar vibes. Like to be honest, I just thought it was an I Quit match, and I expected them to put. There was some nice stuff. So like there was thumbtacks, and Moxley went on the thumbtacks, and then Eddie Kingston was there with the rubbing alcohol and put it on his back. Like that would sting like a motherfucker. Stuff like that was nice, but it just wasn't enough.
Well, I take your point. Like I think the likening to the Brock Dean Ambrose thing is perfect because not deliberately like they did in WWE, but I think they've accidentally oversold how hardcore this is going to be.
Yeah, true. And I don't know. I don't know whether it's because the way they built it up or what.
And who they are. Like you say, you make a really good point. They've both got that background where you think this is going to be hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having two well-known ECW people going up against each other and not having any bloodshed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I think,
as an example.
I've said this before about Kingston. They dropped the ball with him really early on because his first match they had, he tapped out. And I was like, why would you tap out? And then, like, the next couple of weeks down the line, he was like, I've never quit at anything in my life. And it's like, you tapped out a couple of weeks ago. It's like, I know.
Yeah, that's kind of like quitting.
Exactly. I know when he lost to Moxley in their match, he didn't tap, but he just faded, whatever, which was sensible. But then it was similar stuff again in this one where it was like, he's got the same move in on him, and this time he says, I quit. And it's like, well, you've tapped again. And it's like, well, really? You're not that hardcore, are you, mate? So.
Won't even blade.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I feel like it was a bit of a defamation of character for Kingston, to be honest. I think how good of a promo he is, how much they built him up, it just didn't deliver in that sense.
I can't see where you're
It wasn't a
coming
bad
from
match.
To be honest.
You know, I don't want to shit on it. It wasn't a bad match, but I think I just expected more.
Sound. Yeah, I agree.
So, lastly, it's the only shite I've got, Anthony, and it's a minor one. is around the whole Nyla Rose, Hikaru Shida, and Vicky Guerrero thing. So the match itself was I don't think the match itself was bad. I don't think it deserves to be a no shite. At the same time, it doesn't deserve to be a highlight. So I've just elected not to speak about it. But what is a no shite is I never understood anyway why Vicky and Nyla Rose were like this team and why Vicky was managing it. It never really got explained. It was just one day Vicky Guerrero was in charge. Cool. And then we haven't heard anything about it. And then Vicky gets involved, hits Shida with a kendo stick, blah, 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 blah. And then ultimately Rose loses. And after the match, Vicky gets in Nyla's face and slaps her and everything. And it's like, I don't really care because you've not given me a reason to care. Like, you just threw yourself together as like this manager person. But
this is the trouble. Like, you've hit the nail on the head. Why are we meant to care when we've not seen her manager even? Like, have you seen them? Have you seen her as their manager since they announced that she was their manager?
I mean, I've not even seen them at all.
Exactly.
To be fair.
They've been off the air that long, and now we're trying to build this sort of internal struggle. Like, when were they together long enough for this fallout to even be relevant?
No idea.
Yeah, there's just not enough time for it. Like, if they wanted to build that sort of dissension, you do it over a few weeks. But we haven't seen them in weeks, and then they rock back up, and now Vicky don't like her. It's like, okay,
yeah.
Guess that
I
didn't
think
work out then.
I'm also confused as well. Where does the women's division go from here? Because there's no one left because she's beaten everyone. Statlander's out injured. Penelope Ford, I think she's beat as well, but I'd like to see her get another shot. But right now,
I'd
where
happily
she's
see
on the
her go
card,
in another program with Britt.
yeah, well, I mean that is probably the obvious choice, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Sorry,
but yeah, I don't know. I think that is the way it's always going to be headed. I think based off the fact that Britt's been out, she was built up. She was obviously incapacitated for a while. She's back. She's had the big swole thing. She's had resurgence, and now it's kind of like, well, yeah, it does make sense. But at the same time, we haven't really seen her either for the past couple of weeks. So
yeah, weirdly, yeah.
I don't really
But
know.
again, we've been concentrating on all the men, haven't we? As people famously point out, hey, we don't give a shit about women. Now it's all going to change. We've got Thunder Rosa rocking up. We've got NWA women invading. It's going to be great. The women's division is going to be stacked before you know it. It's going to be crazy.
Crazy shit. But yeah, that was Anthony. That was Full Gear for me. And I can't fault it muchly at all. Like, I think it was a fantastic show. Maybe one of the best pay-per-views that AEW put out.
Whoa.
So for me, it's a 4.5. It doesn't quite do enough to get a 5, just with a couple of the bits and bobs that happened. But at the same time, I thought, it could have done with more build. It could have done with, a couple of slight tweaks to some of the matches. But all in all, it was so entertaining. I felt like, I got a lot out of most of the blow-offs and most of the feuds. So yeah, 4 out of 5. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, I'd probably go for a 4. I think I probably had it. Well, no, because it was really good. I can't deny. I had a couple of gripes, but as we've talked through them, as you know, they weren't like major gripes. They were just like things I weren't overly happy with. But the
major gripes.
but yeah, so I can't even that's the reason I'm probably not with you on a 4.5, because there were a couple more things I probably had issue with, but they weren't even major issue. It's a personal opinion of should Darby Allin have won or not. And some of the stuff I had issue with in that match wasn't even because of that match. It was because of the way the TNT title had been booked previously. So can I be unfair to this pay-per-view because of that? No. So for me, I'll give it a 4. I can't quite get to a 4.5 because I think I did have a couple more issues than you. But yeah, it was a very solid pay-per-view, very enjoyable pay-per-view. One of the best I've seen in a while. So definitely a 4 out of 5 for me.
Yes. So I think, Anthony, that is all the shows, all the talk.
It is. All the shows.
All for this week.
That's 8 of the cake this week. Done. Another one done.
Another one done.
Another one done. Slowly getting into our first year being done, Carl. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
I mean, how far in are we now?
9 months?
We're about 9 months in. Are we due?
I don't even know anymore. We started officially in March. I think the first episode, which was kind of a test of waters kind of thing, was a Rumble talk. But we started officially in March.
Okay, not quite, but nearly.
Because the Rumble talk, I think, was end of Feb. Could be wrong on that, but around that. Well, it was around the Royal Rumble. When did the Royal Rumble happen, Carl?
January.
Yeah, let's go with that. But no, I know we were starting it properly from March, so I always just count it as March onwards. But nevertheless, we're closing in. End of season 1 will be soon. And boy, what a year it's been. I'll try and edit in some
Just you wait until we replace our
memories.
theme song with some shitty rap song, as you do with the season premiere Raw. But yeah.
Oh, we need to do a shitty rap now. That'd be awesome. But anyway, we've taken too much of your time, guys. I mean, you're still here with us. It's been I don't have a timer. 3 hours, let's say. Who knows? But before you go, do you like whiskey? Do you like wrestling?
Yeah.
Well, we certainly do. We like it so much. We made it into a shirt.
We did.
Yeah.
Hey.
Check it out. So if you like this shirt and shirts in general, wrestling content, various other things, why not visit a2thek.co.uk? Visit the shop section, see what other shirts are available. Look at that right there. Quality craftsmanship. Otherwise, if you want to check us out on social media, by all means, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr even now, I think. Where else are we, Carl? We're on YouTube.
We are TikTok famous.
We are TikTok famous. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find us in your local supermarket, maybe. Who knows?
In fact, tell us where you're listening to us, because analytics tells us you are listening to us on other. So
Yes,
we're not familiar with that podcast streaming service. But yeah.
Indeed. But thanks again, guys, and we'll see you all next week.
Take it easy.
Hey, everybody. This is Thunder Rosa, and you're watching or listening A to the K.